My friend here says, I wish Germans would loudly love their country. And it's a comment that I think about often because on a cognitive level, I understand it. But on an emotional level, it feels quite foreign to me, and I think a lot of Germans would agree with that. In many places, patriotism is measured in decibels. The volume of your anthem, the size of your flag. Love for your country is expected to be loud, proud, and on full display. Being German, I come from a country that has learned at great cost that love doesn't have to be loud to be real. Sometimes the truest love is quiet. It's humble and willing to work in the shadows. In Germany, the shadow of history is long and cold. And we don't carry it in some sort of abstract fashion. It's in the memorial stones underneath our feet, in the names of our streets, and the way history is taught in schools when we're young. We know exactly what happened when patriotism grew too loud and certain of itself. So our patriotism grew in a different direction. Not the fireworks and parades kind, but the maintenance and repair kind. The kind of care you take with an old house you love, tending to the beams, checking for leaks, and making sure it will still stand for another generation. One thing I think we don't talk about enough is that humility is more than a cultural style. For us, it's always a safeguard. Because the louder a country insists on its greatness, the harder it becomes to admit when something's wrong. That's how cracks spread through the foundation unnoticed, because everyone's too busy cheering to look down. Humility builds the habit of checking the foundation before celebrating the building. I've met people who have told me that that's just self-deprecation. But when you grow up in a country that once told itself that it was destined for greatness, you learn that the moment you stop asking the hard questions is the moment danger begins again. This humility certainly shapes how we govern, but it also shapes how we perceive ourselves. And it's closely tied to the kind of pride we choose to have. Psychologists distinguish between different forms of pride, and two of them are hubristic pride and authentic pride. Hubristic pride says we are great because we're inherently superior. It's like that one person we all know who can't stop boasting about their accomplishments. On the surface, it's impressive. But the longer you listen, the more it feels forced, almost insecure. Authentic pride says we're proud of what we've done, the hard, sometimes invisible work we've put in. It's like meeting someone quietly competent. Authentic pride doesn't need spectacle. It's not about impressing others, but about living up to your own standards. And that authentic pride takes work. Real, sustained emotional labor. Loud patriotism can thrive on performative moments. Quiet patriotism is different. It demands years of unglamorous vigilance. Why? Because it's easier to stand for an anthem than to sit through years of difficult reforms. We rarely acknowledge how exhausting but necessary it is to keep that kind of self-scrutiny alive as a nation. Like in our personal life, the real love is in the maintenance. The willingness to keep showing up even when it's not exciting. Which brings me to another point I think about a lot, and that is the myth of post-history. Many countries believe that they've graduated from their dark chapters, and that certain horrors are safely behind them. Germany's humility comes from rejecting that myth entirely. History is always present, and it's always waiting for the right conditions to return. Quiet patriotism keeps those conditions in check by keeping memory alive, not only on anniversaries, but in daily life. In countries where patriotism is loud, the proof of love is in public performance. You stand up, you cheer, you wave the flag. In Germany, the proof is not in how enthusiastically you praise your country. It's whether you're willing to question it when necessary. It's not romantic or flashy, but it's the kind of love that keeps a country healthy over the long term. In political and our private lives, accountability is often phrased as punishment. But in a democracy and in private life, it's actually maintenance. You don't fix a leaking roof because you hate your home. You fix it because you love it enough to protect it. It's how we can make sure that the place we love remains worth loving. Of course, another trap is to equate volume with strength. But a nation confident in its democratic health doesn't need to keep proving it. So when you, my friend, said, why don't you proudly say, look at what we've done? My answer is, we do look at what we've done. But we look in both directions. Not only at the safeguards we've built, but also at the ruins that taught us to build them in the first place. Now, I'm not saying that every country should become like Germany. Every nation's history is its own. But there are principles, I believe, that could and maybe should travel across borders. Pride based on actions, not myth. Memory that's active, not ornamental. And accountability treated as love, not as an attack. And to ask ourselves, what in our history should we keep visible, even when it's uncomfortable? And what will we teach our children about it? So yes, You can love your country quietly. You can love it without all the drama. You can love it so much you don't need the world's applause. Loud patriotism says, look at us. Humble patriotism says, look at what we're protecting, even when you're not watching. And that kind of love, I think, lasts longer.